My name is Ryan, and I'm 29 years old. My family, especially my parents, always favored my older brother, Mark, their golden son. Meanwhile, I was like an outsider, looked down upon just because I dared to walk on the challenging path of entrepreneurship that they never supported. Recently, after 5 years of no contact, my parents suddenly called me, wanting me to help Mark, who is currently unemployed. They wanted me to hire him into my company, which made me both confused and angry. Mark, 31 years old, has always been the pride of his parents because of his excellent academic achievements and glamorous office career. He went to a prestigious university and became the youngest vice president in the history of the company he worked for, an achievement that his whole family always praised. Every time I think of Mark, I remember my parents' constant comparisons, reminding me to try harder so as not to fall behind. To be honest, I was never interested in the 9-to-5 office job like him. I always yearned for a different life, to be my own boss, to start a business, to build something of my own. About 5 years ago, after experiencing many different jobs, I decided to pursue that dream and started planning to open a company specializing in manufacturing unique and modern car accessories, designs that were completely created by me. I spent months researching the market, building a business model, and preparing everything carefully to launch the company. I thought my parents would support me at least once, despite how much they favored Mark for so many years. I hoped they would see the seriousness and passion in the path I chose. But when I shared this plan with my parents, instead of receiving encouragement, I only received contemptuous laughter. They said I was joking, saying that it was a shame that after all these years of studying, I had such big ideas for the future. When I tried to explain, they advised me not to quit my job, that my current job was stable, and the company I wanted to work for was just a pipe dream. My parents said I was not capable, that no one in the family believed I could be as successful as Mark. Those words were like knives cutting deep into my heart, but I refused to give in. I told them straight out that whether they supported me or not, I would continue. But they just shrugged and warned me that if I chose to start a business, they would cut ties with me because I would be a disgrace to the family. They had known this for a long time, but were only now saying it out loud. My parents also said they were tired of having to deal with two sons who were so different. One was a young vice president of a large company, and I was still struggling to find the right direction, even though I was already 25. They said they had been planning to discuss this for a long time, and now they gave me a choice. Either continue on the stable path so as not to embarrass them, or pursue my dream, accept being a laughingstock, and lose their love forever. I did not hesitate to choose the second path. I decided to cut ties with my parents and have not had any contact with them since. So did my brother Mark, who was completely on their side. Actually, I wasn't surprised or upset by that. Mark was arrogant, and I had never wanted to have anything to do with him. I have been working in the automotive industry for a long time, and that passion inspired my business idea. I believed in the market, believing that people needed modern and unique auto accessories like that. I quit my job, entered the entrepreneurial world with all my enthusiasm and determination to prove my parents wrong. I knew the path I chose was risky, and not everyone should or dare to follow. But the truth is that I succeeded. Just a few months after starting, I found investors and officially established my own company. At first, everything was difficult. I had to live each day depending on word of mouth. Customers came slowly, but more and more. After about a year and a half, things started to stabilize, and I no longer look back with doubt or self-doubt. I now live a much more comfortable life, have a nice apartment in a safe area of Seattle, a car I love, and have achieved all my dreams. I am not a millionaire, but I am no longer the failure my parents predicted. I feel happy to have proven that to them. I don't need my parents or brother Mark in my life anymore because they don't deserve it. For the past 5 years, I haven't called or texted them once. I married my girlfriend of 8 years. We've been married for 2 years, and recently, she announced that she's pregnant. I've gone through all those big milestones without trying to reconnect with my parents. They know how to find me through relatives. If they want to, they can visit. But in reality, they only occasionally ask about me and have never taken the initiative to contact me. Last week, they texted me out of the blue and asked if I wanted to meet. I discussed it with my wife, and she suggested I go and see what they wanted, since the text didn't say anything. Even though I didn't know what to expect, I decided to go to their house anyway. When I arrived, they greeted me warmly, but I quickly realized that something was wrong. In all the time we lived together, they had never been so kind to me. During our small talk, I sensed that they were about to say something important. Finally, they admitted that they knew about my business success and invited me over to congratulate. They didn't apologize, just joked that I had proven them wrong and now they had no more doubts. I just laughed and didn't know what to say. Then they moved on to my brother Mark. He had been having a rough time in the past few months. The company had a series of layoffs. The entire management team had been replaced, and Mark was one of them. For the past 4 months, he had been stuck at home, without a job. His parents told him that Mark had been trying to find a new job, but because he had worked for the same company for so long, he didn't know what else to do, and he was very depressed. I found what they were saying about their brother very awkward, because I couldn't help them. I just listened to them silently, wanting to see what they would do next. Then they asked me if I could take Mark on, because he was depressed, not getting any jobs, or if he did get them, the pay was lower than expected. They said he needed a job that paid well, where he could use his experience and make a contribution. My parents wanted me to help him get a position in the company. I didn't know what to say, so I asked them for time to think about it and promised to get back to me. I didn't agree right away because I knew they wouldn't contact me for no reason. They could have done that before, but they didn't. They seemed very pleased. Maybe they expected me to agree. When I got home, I thought it over and discussed it with my wife. She worked in a bank, which had nothing to do with my company, but she said this was my business, and it was my right to do whatever I wanted. If I didn't want to work with my brother, I shouldn't force myself. She also didn't believe that my parents really wanted to make peace, so I had no obligation to listen. Even though I had helped them before, I didn't owe them to acknowledge my brother. I had no intention of telling them my decision, because if I said no, I knew they would use it to make me look bad. I tried to avoid confrontation, but they texted me every day asking for my decision, and I ignored them. 2 days ago they called to urge me, and I said I had thought it over and decided I couldn't work with Mark because of our bad relationship, and I didn't owe him or them that. They got angry, yelled, reminded me of what they had done for me as a child, raised me, gave me money I wanted, and now they expected me to repay them by helping my brother, but I turned my back as if I owed them nothing. I felt it was incredibly unfair because they were doing it because I was young and dependent on them. It was a parental duty, not a privilege. I told them I didn't want to work with Mark because of the bad relationship, not because of them, and it wasn't worth yelling about. Moreover, we have not been in contact for the past 5 years because they have lost faith in me and have not supported my business, so they have no right to force me. But they still loudly say that just because they think I am successful, they will forget the past, and that I am selfish, holding grudges, and not helping the family. They kept telling me that Mark was my brother and that he was in trouble, and that I should help him. They said that if Mark were in my position, he would do the same for me. They also said that if the business failed, they would help me, and I owed them. The argument got so heated that I said I didn't want to talk to them anymore, hung up and blocked their number. I was very confused by what my parents said. They said that if I were him, they would definitely help, but my wife said that it was just manipulative words. I should not pay attention to it. They never even apologized to me and expected help. To be honest, my brother was not a nice person to me when I was young. He often bullied and hurt me. I know my wife is right when she said I should not pay attention to what they say, but deep down, I still feel a little guilty and awkward. Thanks everyone for your responses to my post. Since the last time I talked to my parents, I realized that what I did was not a big deal. My brother is not someone who will not have a job. I just do not want to cooperate with him. I discussed it with my wife and decided to stick to my position. My parents continued to badmouth me, thinking that I was jealous of my brother and that I was taking advantage of the situation to hurt the family. I couldn't understand how stressed they were. I knew they had texted their relatives and told them about it. It wasn't that they had told them, it was they who had actively spread the news about me. It was ridiculous and made me realize it was just a ploy to get attention, but I didn't let myself get sucked in. I blocked all contact with them and have no intention of reopening it. Some relatives still tried to contact me, sending me screenshots of messages from my parents, and I explained everything clearly. Everyone understood the conflict between me and my parents, so they were not surprised. But they felt that my parents had gone too far, dragging so many relatives into my private matters and deliberately defaming me. After clarifying, most of my relatives advised me not to worry about my parents anymore, that they did not turn their backs on me, but understood the old story and saw that my parents were overreacting. That helped me feel somewhat relieved. My wife is pregnant, so I don't want to waste time on this negative stuff. I plan to announce the good news in the next few weeks, but maybe sooner so that my parents know not to bother us anymore. However, I'm not sure that will work because my parents are inconsiderate and will probably make things difficult for my wife, even though they know she is pregnant. A few days ago, my wife and I posted about our pregnancy on social media. It was also 10 days since I last spoke to my parents. Most of my relatives sent me their congratulations, but I received a strange email warning that my child would be harmed because of the conflicts I was having with my family. I assumed it must have been my parents because no one else could have said such terrible things. My child hasn't even been born yet, but they're already wishing for something bad to happen just because I didn't let my brother work in the company. Actually, my brother never asked me directly. It was only my parents who wanted me to help him. Anyway, that's not the biggest problem. No matter what I did wrong, they had no right to say such harsh words. I never told my wife about this because I didn't want her to worry. She was in the very early stages of pregnancy. I didn't want to put more pressure on her. But reading those cruel words made me extremely disappointed. I decided to confront my parents myself because I had no other choice. I went to their house to talk to them in person because I had blocked their phone number so I couldn't contact them by phone. When they arrived, they didn't open the door. I guess they knew they were wrong and didn't dare to face me. I had to talk outside the fence. I was so angry, I yelled at them that they had no right to say those things to me. Especially when I looked back at the way they treated me throughout my childhood and the past 5 years. As if I was not a member of the family. Now that I have some success, they want me to share the work with my brother, while before, when I was in trouble, they never stood by me once. Honestly, they don't deserve to be called family. I told them straight out that their efforts only made me more distant. I didn't want to talk to them anymore. I couldn't forgive them no matter how much they apologized. They could give up all help when they got old, and they were absolutely never allowed to see their grandchild, my child. With that, I returned home feeling relieved. I've kept it all inside for too long, and now it's time to give back. I haven't told my wife about this yet so as not to upset her, and I don't intend to tell her until she gives birth. After that conversation, my parents temporarily kept quiet and did not cause any more trouble. I threw a small party to announce the good news of my pregnancy to a few close friends and family. I thought they would make a fuss, but no, they hardly cared. I think they've let this go, and I want them to too. But this morning, while I was working, my brother suddenly called me. It's strange, because he has cut off contact with his family for the past 5 years. I don't know what he wants. At first, I thought he was asking for work like his parents, so I decided to ignore it. However, he called many times and texted to talk about important things, said he wanted to talk about something that had been bothering him lately. I had to answer the phone. He said that for the past few weeks he has been very sad, not talking to anyone, ignoring all messages and emails, even from relatives. A few days ago, he read the messages and found out that everyone in the family said that my parents unfairly asked me to hire him, especially since my parents had never treated me well. Ethan has been very confused about talking to his parents about this lately, because they haven't mentioned anything about my request to hire him. He called his parents directly, but they denied knowing what the message said. That ambiguity and circumlocution made him suspect they were lying. So he called me, wanting to hear the real story. Ethan had confided in his parents about his unemployment, his sadness, and his struggles, but had never once asked me for help. I myself don't understand why my parents framed him for this, forcing me to hire him when he didn't want to. After thinking it over, I told Ethan the whole story my parents told me, that right after listening to his story, they forced me to give him a job, thinking that it was a way to help the family overcome difficulties. I told him that maybe at first my parents sincerely wanted to help him get his life back on track, but in the end, it turned into harassment and pressure on me that I couldn't bear. I am sorry that you lost your job, and I understand how much it meant and valued you. I know you worked hard in that position, and it is not easy to be fired. I also told him frankly that he knew very well that our relationship was not good, and that was the reason I refused to accept him to work with me. He understood that, and said that he didn't mean to offend me. He simply didn't want to work with anyone right now. He needed time to rest and think things over. My parents said that he didn't have any other good job opportunities. But the truth is that he did. He just hadn't accepted one because he wanted to rest. He was quite upset and confided in me a lot about this. I listened and sympathized with the difficulties he was going through. Even though we are no longer close, I still believe you can overcome this period and do many good things. After that conversation, he told me that he was very upset because his parents interfered too much, causing outsiders to misunderstand that he was trying to convince his parents to force me to hire him, when in fact, that was not the case. He said he would talk frankly with his parents and apologize to me for what I had to go through. I see you have matured a lot, especially after being fired. Maybe he realized that nothing lasts forever and arrogance only hurts himself. That could be the hidden lesson that helps him change. Even though our relationship was never completely mended, at least we had a decent conversation, and I figured that was enough. A few days ago, Ethan called me and told me that he was going to confront his parents about what they had done. He did, but the conversation did not go well. His parents reacted defensively, insisting that they were only trying to help him because they did not want him to take a long break and needed to find a job quickly. The argument became heated when Ethan accused his parents of wanting to control his life from a young age, not letting him decide his own path. His parents disagreed, listing everything they had done for him, considering it a privilege, while I knew it was just a natural parental responsibility. After a heated argument, Ethan now doesn't talk to his parents, and they blame me for everything. My parents didn't even face me directly, but wrote a post on Facebook to accuse me. Fortunately, many people I knew stood by me, refuting my parents' false statements, reminding them that they were bad parents, not only to me, but also to Ethan, for always imposing, controlling, and pressuring him when he was in trouble. They should have supported him mentally and emotionally, instead of making him out to be the bad guy and tearing the family apart. After a series of negative comments, my parents had to delete the post and block everyone in the family from their personal page. In short, most people shunned my parents, and I felt relieved about that. My brother has apologized to me for the past and said he will try to rebuild our relationship. But right now, I am only concerned with my own life, my wife, and our unborn child. And I am very excited about becoming a father.